So oftentimes I hear that people want to set up a naturalistic enclosure. And so this video's purpose is to share some tips on how you can set up a naturalistic enclosure for your turtles. Swamp life reptiles, where conservation, captive breeding, and stewardship come together through education. What's going on, Swamp Squad? It's Swamp Life Reptiles, and we're back with another video today. In today's video, we're going to talk all about what a naturalistic enclosure is and what are some basic things that you can do to set up your animals in naturalistic environments. A naturalistic enclosure is one that is modeled after nature, one where you try to provide the most exact example of nature for your animals. So in my mind, a naturalistic enclosure includes three main things. The first component of a naturalistic enclosure, in my opinion, is a substrate. So when working with turtles, some people avoid substrates because they feel like it's a bit problematic in terms of cleaning and in terms of keeping the water filtrated. I use a substrate that is primarily sand and gravel. I use this substrate because many of the turtle species that I keep prefer to forage on the bottom of the tank. When you keep a glass bottom tank or a plastic bottom tank, you don't provide that natural environment for the turtle to do some of their natural behaviors. Here in my outdoor enclosure, as you can see, there's a sand substrate on the bottom. They kick around the sand a lot, so you'll see spots where there's not sand, but this is actually a full 50-pound bag of sand down there on the bottom of my 300-gallon tub. Here you'll see some of my terrapins swimming around. Here are my Florida box turtles. You'll again see a substrate. This is dirt, peat moss, and actually some sand and some gravel actually. Again, I prefer to use a substrate with most of my animals. I've seen a couple of people recently ask, well, what kind of sand or gravel should one use? I usually use typical play sand and gravel that you can purchase at Lowe's or Home Depot, typical hardware store. But the one thing you want to do is make sure that you clean it very well. I typically rinse mine for between 30 to 45 minutes to get all that dirt and grime out before I put it into the enclosures. So the second thing that I believe that naturalistic enclosures kind of need are plants. And so providing live plants as opposed to plastic plants help provide a more natural environment. These plants do things like help take the nitrates and nitrites out of the water, keep the water cleaner. They provide even food for some species of turtles that enjoy eating live plants, as well as providing hiding and places for fish to reproduce in. And these things are components that these turtles would find in their natural environment. For example, here you can see some water hyacinth. This is actually my common stink pot enclosure. There's a piece of driftwood, as you can see, and plenty water hyacinth that help filter the water. I don't have anything on here other than a sponge filter. And these water hyacinths do a great job of providing water filtration, hiding spots for both the fish and the turtles that are in it. On my Florida box turtles, I had planted some grass, but I think the angle that I have the enclosure at caused the grass seeds to flush out. And so for now, I just have a lot of leaves covering the enclosure. And the leaves help keep it natural. The box turtles like to bury down into the leaves. You actually can't see any of them right now because they're all hiding in said leaves. I also have some driftwood, but also in the water, you can kind of see it. There are some natural plants down there for them to scurry around, hide in, eat, and also to help filter the water. This enclosure, you can see that I have both fake plants and I actually have live red mangrove plants growing in the tank that help filter and try to keep it as natural as possible. Again, you'll see that I also have sand and gravel as a substrate, and this specific terrapin is often found foraging, digging in the dirt, and chewing on rocks. I need to get her some crushed coral so she'll actually have something she can actually chew on and actually eat. All right, so we've covered substrate, we've covered live plants, and the third component of a naturalistic enclosure, in my opinion, is driftwood. So in all of my enclosures, you'll find that I use driftwood as their basking platforms. I'm a believer that in nature, you're not gonna find foam, pre-made, designed, cute little, docks. And so whenever I set up my enclosures, I try to use driftwood or rock formations for them. I've been blessed to be able to get a large portion of my driftwood locally, and so I use driftwood for all of my enclosures. I think that driftwood most naturally models how most turtles are gonna be found basking. For example, on my 300-gallon stock tank out here, I have this huge piece of driftwood, all right, that I have created this nice sloped ramp for them to go out of and get on top and bask. And then down inside of the water is a huge tree stump that I purchased. This rock was on here originally until it got waterlogged. I just haven't moved it. The thing that I like about driftwood is it allows the turtles to interact with it naturally. So not only do the turtles come up here and bask, but I also find them hiding underneath the branches down at the bottom, swimming in between them. And as opposed to a preformed basking dock, I believe, at least in my opinion, that it gives them more of an environment to interact and encounter with, a more interactive environment. This enclosure did have plants at one time, but now it's a brackish water setup, and I haven't moved my mangrove plants outside since it's about to be winter soon. In the spring, I plan to have a huge flower pot that will have all of my mangrove plants. So again, here's my Florida box turtle enclosure. You'll see again I have driftwood. When it's raining, I'll actually find them sitting on top of it, as well as in the sun actually. In the mid part of the day, they like to sit on there, bask and collect sun. And then on my stink pot musk turtle enclosure, I've actually caught my smaller female and male basking on this piece of driftwood as well. It goes down into the water and provides them an area to get up, dry off, and bask. So we've transitioned into the garage so I can show you how I keep the setups in my garage naturalistic. So let's go ahead and take a look. I have another diamondback terrapin setup. As you can see, I have two large pieces of driftwood. There's a male ornate diamondback terrapin, and down there is my mangrove. But yes, again, I have driftwood, and then down here I didn't get a chance to put it a real large amount of sand. This is sand that's come from the nesting box, but the plan is before we hit the dead cold of winter, I am gonna have a nice amount of sand in the bottom for them to get down and bury themselves into if need be. So then we'll go over here. This diamondback terrapin enclosure, you'll actually see there is a substrate on the bottom. It's a mixture of sand and crushed coral. You'll see I have driftwood as well as cork bark for the basking platform. They've been moving around and shifting it, so I gotta fix that. And then this enclosure has fake plants. Now, I know I said that most naturalistic enclosures should have real plants, and I still stand by that, but some species of turtles just don't do well with live plants based on, water parameters and things of that nature. Out of all of my enclosures, I think this one is the one that I've done the best on in terms of trying to make it as natural as possible. This is my adult spotted, well, not adult, juvenile spotted turtle enclosure. I say juvenile to separate it because I do have some hatchlings. But here you'll see that there is a substrate of sand and rocks again. I have driftwood as you can see, a large driftwood piece. And then I have some live plants. Now there were more over here, and at one point the whole top was covered, but I found that my spotted turtles actually like to eat the live plants, as well as the plants getting sucked up into the filter like that. So it is time to get some more live plants. But I think out of all of my enclosures, in terms of how nice it looks and how well I've met those 3 criteria, this is probably the most natural of my enclosures. Now, it doesn't always necessarily mean it's the most natural to their natural environment, because for spotted turtles, that's a little difficult to replicate. Spotted turtles actually require a pretty specific environment. And so, you know, for most of us, it's just doing the best that we can. Out of all of my enclosures, only 2 of them actually had all 3 of the criteria that I said that, you know, a naturalistic enclosure should have. And that's not to say that those aren't naturalistic enclosures, or you can't even have just one of them to make your enclosure more natural. What I wanted to do was to give you the top 3 ways that I think that you can make an enclosure more natural for your turtles. Again, each species of turtle requires different things, and so you want to do some research into what your turtle species requires. But I stand by those 3 things. If you have the ability to add a substrate, if you have the ability to add live plants, and third, if you have the ability to use, you know, a basking dock that is a piece of driftwood or rock instead of a pre-made basking dock, those are 3 ways that you can make your enclosure a little bit more naturalistic while still being beautiful. So yeah, guys, we are at the end of the video. Please make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of your support. Don't forget to turn on your notifications so you can find out when we have a new video released. But yeah, hang on tight, sit around for a little bit longer, and I'm gonna share some videos of my turtles swimming around, because who doesn't like to see a turtle swimming? I do, I know that for sure. Thanks guys, and I'll see you next time. All right guys, we're about to go swimming in the 300-gallon outdoor stock tank with my concentric and Mississippi Diamondback terrapins. So let's jump in.